everyone, welcome back or welcome to my channel. My name is Savannah, and in today's video we're going over the May dev diary for Prehistoric Kingdom, which did in fact come out a couple days ago on May 31st, but I'm a little bit behind, so let's jump right on into it. Starting off with Dinosaurs and staff will be coming to Update 11's PTB very soon. Remembering that PTB stands for Public Testing Branch. So they've been kind of releasing things of Update 11 in bits and pieces for us to kind of test out as game players and give feedback to the devs. The next PTB release will include access to an early version of staff gameplay featuring laborers and keepers. Their visuals are still a heavy work in progress, featuring non-final animations and materials, but their gameplay is mechanically functional. Although we explained how staff and logistics work in a previous dev diary, we'll go quickly through it again here with a new in-game screenshots and GIFs. So starting off with the loading bay, it all begins with the loading bay, a module that imports resources for animals and guests. This building can only hold a small amount of items, relying on staff to distribute supplies throughout the park. When resources have been collected by staff, a truck will depart to replace your missing inventory, returning later in the month. Downtime between deliveries can be improved by purchasing up to 2 additional trucks per loading bay. So then from the loading bay here, those trucks can also take goods to a storage module. Since the loading bay can run out of room, you'll eventually need to expand your storage. Storage modules are for goods and produce and can be strategically placed around the park to shorten delivery times in the long term. In Prehistoric Kingdom, this is a physical process. Laborers will walk from the loading bay to storage modules, transporting the required goods. There is no park-wide resource pool. Each storage building has its own internal stock and demands physical attention from a laborer or keeper in order to retrieve a resource. Players can selectively block certain types when selecting a storage module, allowing you to flexibly customize how things are stored without having to clinically micromanage everything. Blocking a resource that's already in storage will have it removed by a laborer. So this whole loading bay and storage building system is just an extra level of park management within the game, and I'm really curious to see how it will affect gameplay. How difficult is it going to be to keep your park stocked and keep it, effectively distributed throughout your park? As it does say here, that each storage facility has its own inventory. So if you have a part of the park where there are, 3 or 4 exhibits around and a gift shop and a restaurant, and, that storage system is probably need to stay packed all the time. Whereas, in other parts of the park, if you don't have quite that much stuff around, maybe you need just a few deliveries here and there. So I am really curious, as I said, to see how this affects gameplay and how difficult it is to keep your park stocked. Now, I am actually a fan, looking at this storage building here, this storage module, of both how simple it is, but also the little details that it has on the outside of it. It's obviously just a square building there, or a couple square buildings. Easy to cover up with module pieces if you want to decorate it as your own building, but it also has enough details that it stands alone quite nice, in my opinion, that you can just kind of place that down in the park and move on with your gameplay. So a fan of that there. Moving on to laborers and keepers. Starting off with laborers. The laborer's primary role is to transport resources around the zoo, taking meals and merch from the loading bay or goods storage in order to restock kiosks, restaurants, and gift shops so that visitors have products to buy. as mentioned, these staff members also take the responsibility for moving resources between storage modules. So they're basically going to be just running all over your park constantly. They're going to be the ones that are the most in shape, just moving those boxes, moving those goods. Moving on to keepers. Keepers take produce from the loading bay, storage modules, or produce stations. They'll enter habitats via the new staff gates and restock feeders, providing your animals with food. You can see a work in progress refill below. We intend to make keepers push wheelbarrows once it's all finished. So you can see there, he's obviously picking up the handles of a wheelbarrow and dumping all that food into the feeding tray, which I think is a cool little feature. Obviously, these guys are going to eat a lot of food, and so pushing around a wheelbarrow I think is a nice little touch. And then, of course, the keeper gates. Not much to say about those, other than it's a keeper gate, and exciting to actually have them in the game, an area for your keepers to enter your exhibits. Seeing staff running around exhibits really gives us an appreciation for how big these animals were, and highlights how massive these feeders are. Of course, after animals have eaten, they'll also poop. Keepers ensure habitats stay clean by taking dung to the nearest compost heap for conversion into compost. Moving on to produce stations, another one of my favorite aspects of Prehistoric Kingdom. Compost is delivered to produce stations by laborers. So they have to carry like goods and storage and stuff, but also compost around the park. It's with these modules that players can grow their own food supply, converting compost into edible plants, fruit, meat, fish, or insects for their animals. And I love the way the produce stations look. And if I remember correctly, this looks like it might actually be 3 produce stations side by side by side. One is fish and a couple are produce. They kind of change their style dependent on what product you have them cultivating. Or maybe this is actually 6. Maybe it's, if you cut this into 6 parts where down on bottom left is fish, and then just to the right of that is insects, and then produce. Or maybe one of those is meat because it looks like a little pen, like the one in the middle. I'm not quite sure, but I digress. Regardless, really, really cool aspect of the game. Without compost, produce stations will continue to generate food, but will do so at a heavily reduced rate. You'll need a decent amount of poop to keep these things going, but the gains are worth it. Final thoughts here. Once staff go live with the PTB, we'll be taking notes on balance while development continues on Update 11. We aren't expecting to have them absolutely perfect out of the gate, and there's a lot of work still to be done on guiding players through this entire system. One of the funny quirks that staff currently have is that they'll freely navigate wherever they want. They'll always take the quickest path to their destination, even if it means going off-road. This is something we'd obviously like to improve, but regardless, they'll get the job done, even if it means wandering through the desert for now. Another thing we'd like to quickly draw attention to are staff gates. These are modular objects that can be used anywhere. They are not exclusive to fences. This means that you can create functionally staff-only areas, which can be essential for maintaining high park beauty. Oh, really cool. I like that a lot. I wonder if this is covered by modular pieces and what the gate actually looks like underneath, or if it molds. It can't mold to the modular pieces. I don't think that that would be a possibility, but really cool that they can use it anywhere outside of just exhibits. On that note, we absolutely love seeing staff move around the zoo. It completely changes how we build and makes us want to spend more time constructing backstage areas. Moving on to Update 11 and talking about improved modular group UI. As a part of our ongoing UI improvements, we've completely revamped the interface for selecting modular groups and items. It's refreshed, minimalized, and highly contextual to the group's contents or selected pieces. Clicking on a group now shows all the module information inside, allowing players to easily view things like loading bay contents, storage modules, or change an animal information sign. You can collapse each widget individually or hold the shift key to collapse all widgets at once. Okay, so let's look at this GIF here. So it looks like, all right, so they've selected the donation bin, the food trough, and the sign. And so it pulls up all of their menus all at once, and you can expand or collapse them individually. That's pretty cool, because then you can, even if these things, because they're all next to each other, right, in these pictures, but even if you place them further apart from one another, if you make them all in a group, it should, in theory, mean that clicking on just one of them brings up this like dynamic menu with all of the options inside. So should be a really quick and easy way to manage a lot of this stuff. So I'll be curious to see how that actually works in game. These widgets will show up while editing a group too. Simply select the item you want to view and the widget will appear exactly like on the group menu. No more jumping back and forth. When selecting a group with lights, you'll be able to access a brand new lighting tab. From here, players will have the option to permanently toggle their lights on regardless of the time of day. Indoor exhibit builders rejoice. That is not necessarily me, as I don't really like building indoor exhibits. However, that is a really, really cool function within the game. If you're going to build nocturnal houses or just indoor buildings in general, being able to turn just those lights on, I think that is huge. That is so cool for gameplay. You won't have to switch it to night just to see how your lighting looks inside the building. Moving on to one of the things I am actually most excited about is the Paleopedia. Since the last dev diary, we added the Paleopedia to the PTB. This can be accessed at any time from the left side of the screen, making it perfect for habitat construction or learning more about your creatures. From the home page, players can filter the search results by biome, time period, continent, diet, and even animal size. This is going to be incredibly helpful for me as someone who's really not familiar with a lot of these prehistoric animals. And so just being able, honestly, to look up very quickly, what biome they're from is really going to help me when deciding like what landscaping to place down inside my exhibits and things like that. So I'm very excited. In the future, we will be expanding the Paleopedia to include articles for dig sites and eventually paleobotany. It's important to learn more about our prehistoric world, and we hope that the Paleopedia can be a resource for that with time. Moving on to Update 11 and Animal Detail Maps. As a small improvement to the animal visuals, we've added detail maps to almost every species. This is a subtle layer of bumpy skin and scratches that sit on top of the existing art assets. It's not noticeable from a distance, but helps greatly when observing them up close. Okay, so what am I actually looking at? I guess I'm actually looking at like these little cracks and crevices right along the dinosaur's skin. That's cool. And I applaud them for adding such a subtle little detail that's really only noticeable up close. So really cool. I'll actually have to jump in and take a look at the dinosaurs in game, because I actually kind of glazed over that the first time I read this. So very, very cool. Update 11, What's Left? Beyond the expected polish needed for staff, there's a few things we'd like to do. For one, we'll need to do a lot of work on funneling/teaching players about the new mechanics. We've been designing a new help menu with updated articles to detail how everything in-game works, and we'll also be revamping the game's notification system to be more helpful, providing suggestions and better information about what's wrong. In terms of staff, we still need to implement cashiers and then focus on balance until we're out of the PTB. Keep your eyes on our socials to find out when Update 11 will officially be ready. And with that, talking about the future a little bit, obviously Update 12 is next. Update 12 will be a content-focused release. Yay, my favorite! Acting as a development buffer while we work on Update 13. It's going to include a new map, building themes, and include 3 animals: Apatosaurus, Brontosaurus, and Hell Creek's very own armored tank, Ankylosaurus. Really cool! I'm so excited about Ankylosaurus. Brontosaurus is pretty cool, and so is Apatosaurus, but personally, Ankylosaurus is the one out of those 3 that I am most excited for. This update will have a focus on making visitors smarter and properly utilize our suite of new animations to make guests feel more lively. We've had to upgrade our animation tech for Update 11, so it'll be great to properly stretch its muscles here. As a continuation of staff management, we'll be adding another new mechanic: messages. Through this menu, players will be able to negotiate employee salaries, try to keep staff on board, and interact with an administration team. We feel that this will be a great way to humanize staff and make their lives more than just a UI element. Check out the concept art below. So this is interesting. We get to talk with our staff. That's actually something that if you would have asked me what I wanted added to a park management game, never in 1,000 years would this have been something that popped into my mind, but I'm interested to see how it works. And I'm interested to see like how, I don't know, how detailed you can get with it. It looks like here, this keeper Alexis is asking us, you know, if they want to raise, and we have 2 different options on how to respond. Really kind of interesting. So I'm curious to see, look, he responds with an emoji little guy or a little animation. Really cool. Okay, and is that talking to Nigel? It is talking to Nigel. Okay, very cool. Yeah, and then moving on just to Update 13, like Update 11, this will be a large mechanical update focused on the animals. We're aiming to improve their AI and behaviors with awareness, sociality, and herding. There's not much else to say at this stage, but we can't wait to share more. And then a couple little community spotlights. This is such a gorgeous picture. I like this so much. Very, very cool. So yeah, that is it for you. That is May's Dev Diary. Thank you so much for hanging out and reading along with me. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in that comment section below. In fact, I also have a brand new Prehistoric Kingdom build video coming out on the channel, what should be tomorrow if you're watching this video right when it goes live. So be sure to check that out. We started a brand new project called Bridgeview Park, and I'm having a blast building in it so far. But until next time, remember to leave a like and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future content, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!